Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining once again this evening. I'm feeling so sad that this is the last day of our series, which we started on 21st on the occasion of Ram Navami, and we are concluding on Hanuman Jayanti, the beautiful appearance of Lord Hanumanji, Bajrangbali, the dear devotee, the eternal servitor and associate of Ramchandraji. So thank you very much for sending so many of your wonderful, amazing questions and being in contact and having such deep curiosity about trying to understand some of the most important principles connected to resilience. And we are so honored that we are able to conclude our session on the occasion of Hanuman Jayanti. As all of you are aware, that Hanumanji represents the most intimate associate of Lord Ram and represents the principle of being a loyal, dedicated servant in the service of the Supreme Lord Rama. Hanumanji represents that personality who took the message of Sri Ram unto Sita Devi and gave hope to Sita Devi. Hanumanji represents the messenger of the Lord who carries that message which can transform our heart and fill our heart with the message of hope. And therefore, with those few words of invocation of the blessings of Bajrangbali Hanumanji, let us begin today's series of questions. So, Anand Singh asks on Insta, how to identify leadership potential within myself? Krishna Ghosh asks on Insta, what are the symptoms of leaders and doers? Rashi Tripathi asks on Insta, I dream to be a leader but get nervous in challenging situations. Please suggest tips. So, this is a very, very important question as far as leadership and leadership development and potential is concerned. Actually, there are two types of personalities. One are leaders and others are doers. So, leaders, they are characterized by the fact that they gladly rise to a challenge and they can take others with them. Doers, on the other hand, prefer to do what you tell them and little more. That's it. And therefore, huge organizations and most successful ones are built on teams of leaders, not teams of doers. And therefore, it's very important for us that if we want to reach the full potential of our mission, we need to develop the culture of leadership, which will take us there in a most sustainable manner. And so the question is, how can I identify whether I have the DNA of a doer or the DNA of a leader? So these are some 5 ways in which you can identify. First, look to see if such people have followers or not. That's the first principle. Very simply put, leaders have followers and doers do not have too many followers, which means that if there are people who are following, then that means that person has leadership potential. So, leader does not necessarily mean that he has to be in a certain position or whatever, but you are actually leading and influencing people within your particular realm in which you are situated. It could be even an old lady, but she's pretty influential in her neighborhood and she's running things within her own circle of social circuit. And therefore, that lady also becomes a leader. And if such personalities are leading something already, they are already a leader. And therefore, leaders have followers and doers don't have. Second, we have to study the influence of such people. If by studying the influence of people, if we see that yes, they have influence, then we know that yes, they are leadership material. As John Maxwell said, leadership is influence, and influence does not depend on position. Influence does not depend on any particular title. If someone depends on their title for their influence, then that person, in effect, is not really a leader. And therefore, there may be newcomers who are just joining, and simply by the way they carry themselves and the kind of skill sets they have, they cultivate tremendous influence in organizations because they have figured out how to lead others. So, therefore, people who don't naturally cultivate influence will not just gain that influence because you put a title. Third, see if such personalities with potential make things happen, because leaders make things happen. Very important. So, doers can take direction, doers can execute someone else's vision, but the doers will require energy, they will require follow up, whereas a leader will be quite proactive and will make things happen. So, a leader essentially is a catalyst. He is creating change, he is creating momentum, he is creating progress. And therefore, you have to build teams with people who make things happen. So, therefore, that's one of the characteristic essential qualities of leader, that they make things happen. Fourth, leaders take responsibility. That's a very classic symptom. If you give someone a responsibility and if they love that responsibility, then they are leadership material. As far as doers are concerned, doers become overwhelmed by the responsibility and they start complaining and they start thinking, what is this responsibility all about? But true leaders are energized by responsibility. True leaders love a challenge. And therefore, a leader is always asking, what else can I do? A leader is proactively pursuing more and more responsibility. He's seeing where I can actually have better responsibility and more responsibility. And therefore, you know, if you actually see a person totally bewildered by taking more responsibility, then he is not ready to be in a leadership position. And therefore, leaders love responsibility and doers get overwhelmed by responsibility. The fifth symptom of a leader is that the leaders love a challenge, doers don't. Just like if you see the example of Jambavan. So when Jambavan and Hanumanji and all the Vanar Sena, that section of leaders who were looking for crossing the ocean and searching for Sita Devi came to the tip of the ocean, and when they saw the 100 yojanas right in front of them, Jambavan started asking questions to each and every monkey soldier. Who's ready to jump? Who's ready to jump? And then Angad said, I can jump the 100 yojanas, I cannot come back. And then different monkey soldiers spoke different, gave different measurements of how much they can jump. Finally, when Jambavan turned to Hanumanji and he said, Hanumanji, I think you can jump. Hanumanji looked at Jambavan and Hanumanji said, I don't think I can jump. I don't have the capacity. And then Jambavan referred to Hanumanji's birth and made him remember his own power, his own influence. And when Hanumanji remembered that, he was ready for a challenge and he was ready to jump. And then he went to Lanka, and as they say, the rest is history. So, doers, they actually get overwhelmed by responsibility and they find a challenge to be too much. And therefore, when you have a big vision for something new, and then you present that vision to a leader, the true leaders actually get energized and excited. And therefore, this is very important that those leaders need to be identified. And if you are in a situation where you are simply attending some courses on MBA or leadership or whatever, and you're getting a tagline which kind of indicates that you have now become a leader, please do reflect on these 5 points as I have shared with you and see whether you actually have that leadership potential within you based on your experiences in life so far. Thank you for those brilliant questions. We have a question from Chirag Acharya on Instagram. How to maintain studies and spirituality? Ashutosh on Insta says, I'm a student. How can we fulfill our duties with selfless attitude? Yash asks on Insta actually. And Ashutosh says, I have a vision of building a corporation but do not want to get caught by Maya. And what is a mantra for students for full concentration and motivation? Formula Book asks on Insta. Thank you very much for asking these wonderful questions. So let me begin by saying that on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna, the most powerful warrior who had a successful track record and was trained personally by Dronacharya, he actually wanted to retire from the battlefield, become a beggar, and give up this fighting. The entire Gita was spoken by Krishna to help Arjuna be rejuvenated, to connect Arjuna with his true mission, to make sure that Arjuna actually acts on the basis of his true motivation. So, before I go on to concentration, before I go on to mind control, before I speak about studies, dear friends, let me begin by saying select the right type of motivation for your study because motivation is closely linked to attention. Motivation is closely linked and related to attention. Number one, the lowest level of motivation is motivation based on fear. Let me study. If I don't study, I will fail. If I don't study, all my members of society will criticize me and they'll say bad things about me. And I look so bad in society. So that is a motivation of fear that's inspired by the mode of ignorance. Please, dear friends, especially in Indian society, we find that amongst the 27 crore students who are studying in the KG to the 12th standard, this kind of stigmatization is very, very prevalent. And people are afraid of exams just because of the fact that they feel that they will be minimized, criticized, socially ostracized. So, study because of this fear that if I don't study, then what will be the negative consequences of people criticizing and so many other things? That is the lowest level of motivation, inspired by tamogun out of fear. Higher level of motivation than that is motivation due to desire. That's the influence of the mode of passion. Desire means, yeah, let me study so that I can defeat that particular person. Let me study so that I can get better marks than my so and so friend. Let me get, let me study so that I can get, number one in my class or whatever. So if you're studying out of a desire, yes, that's better than fear. But please do remember, the influence of the mode of passion will keep you restless and there will be a latent feeling of anxiety within your heart. Again, let me emphasize that some degree of stress, like salt, is important. But as you are studying, we don't want your mind to be distracted by thoughts which are filled with negativities. And therefore, higher level than inspiration and motivation by desire is Motivation caused by a sense of duty. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Dear friends, all of you are very, very capable and you have tremendous potential. Just understand the power of the sense of duty. Just have a calm mind, peaceful disposition. Collect all your thoughts. You have tremendous amount of intelligence. You have not even used 5% of your intelligence. Just gather all of your thoughts and decide that I have a sense of duty. Why is this important? Because duty immediately fixes you on the level of the mode of goodness. And as soon as you touch goodness, automatically all kinds of fear, anxieties, and negativities start dissipating, start sublimating. And therefore, as a student, you should be thinking, my father and mother are investing so much of energy, so much of time, so much of money, so much of hopes in putting me through this education system by getting me admitted into this school, this college, and they are literally toiling to make sure that I get the best resources to study. The nation is investing so much in the form of these teachers, in the form of the school infrastructure, in the form of so many opportunities with employment and jobs, with the assumption that whatever I study, I will be using in future to resolve problems of society in future. Dear friends, let's get back to the basics of education. Why are you studying? Actually, every profession, every job in this world is simply trying to solve specific problems the society and the world is facing. If I have disease, then I need doctor. So the doctor is solving the problem of disease. Then to become a doctor, there is an education, there is a degree. To enter into the medical profession, to enter into the medical, MBBS course, there is a certain study which you have to do before that. But then all of that is ultimately connected to the moment where a patient is sitting in front of you and you want to do your best to make sure that his disease is healed, his pain is resolved. Traveling long distances is a problem, crossing huge rivers is a problem. So you need bridges. To build bridges, to design bridges, to execute the construction of bridges, society needs engineers. And therefore, you need engineers. So you have a whole education in engineering college. You have a process of education which takes you till engineering college. And therefore, as you are studying your mathematics, your physics, your chemistry, you should be motivated by the sense of duty that if I study these well, in future, when I am faced with a particular scenario of trying to execute this, I will be able to execute this to the best of my capacity and relieve the pain which society is experiencing in a particular specific area. So, like that, you analyze every profession is simply designed to resolve one particular problem. Therefore, dear friends, as you are studying, reflect on your sense of duty. And then, with that sense of duty, you will be able to absorb yourself, concentrate, and focus to a much deeper degree because you know that I have a duty, I have a responsibility. You're not just focused on getting more marks. You're not just focused on, doing well in some exams just to show off or whatever. So that is the sense of duty born from the mode of goodness. So mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. Sense of fear, motivation, motivation by desire, motivation by sense of duty. Is there something higher than that? Yes. That's what Krishna expected Arjuna to do. Motivated by love, willingness to go through any pain simply to give pleasure to the desire of the beloved. And that's what Arjuna did as he fought for Krishna. So, motivation by love is the highest. And therefore, these are some thoughts for all of you to understand, how you can actually be totally focused in your study as you are studying on a regular basis. There is another beautiful question on Instagram from Sharad who says, how do we protect ourselves from distractions? So, well, we have to protect ourselves from three things. First is wrong information. Now, just imagine that if there is a stockbroker who's ill informed and they are giving advice to their clients, you invest in this bad share and the clients end up losing money. So actually they are wrong. And if certain teachers, they offer life advice that neglects the spiritual dimensions, then they may not be aware of the life's spiritual dimension, and therefore their information will not be completely correct. So we have to avoid, number one, wrong information. Second, we must avoid the second thing, which is the wrong intelligence. So this is also very important. Protect ourselves from the wrong intelligence, which is wrong decisions. So the same stockbroker analogy, if he misuses his intelligence and reasons wrongly, and they insist that a share is performing badly, no, don't worry, it will pick up soon. And then please, all of you, invest, in this only. Then they are wrong-headed. They have a misdirected intelligence. So we have to protect ourselves from wrong information, from wrong intelligence. And this wrong intelligence is actually that which directs us in the wrong direction. And third is, we have to protect ourselves from being wrong hearted, which is in the same example that the stockbroker is trying to cheat people and deliberately advising people to invest in a share that is going to crash, and they may be getting a kickback or bribe from the owners of the collapsing company, and therefore they are trying to exploit people by telling them this, and therefore this is a very wrong example where they are trying to manipulate others. This is very demoniac and it's the worst kind of misleading. So therefore we have to appreciate that those with incorrect information are wrong, those with misdirected intelligence are wrong headed, but those with malevolent or wrong intentions are wrong hearted. And therefore, to be wrong is bad, to be wrong headed is worse, to be wrong hearted is the worst. And so, we should try to avoid being wrong hearted and first begin by purifying the heart. And so, in the Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, Krishna explains very beautifully to Arjuna, Adharmam dharmam itiya manyante tamasamvrita sa sa sarvarthan viparitamscha buddhi sa partha tamasi. Sarvarthan, in all ways, when the direction is viparitamscha, when it is in the opposite direction, buddhi sa partha tamasi, such a person is in the mode of ignorance. And what is that thinking? That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion is under the spell of illusion and darkness. And it is always in the wrong direction, O Partha, and that is in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, This is very important for us that we remain focused with on the right intention, on the right intelligence, and based on the right intention and intelligence, we will be able to discriminate and discern what is the proper information to process and implement in our life. I hope this helps you. There is no name on the Instagram, and there is a question. In life, if things are predestined, what is the role of the individual endeavor towards anything? For example, work, bhakti, resilience, etc. Sapphire and Tonic on Insta says, can you kindly elaborate on destiny? With respect to our personal endeavors, resilience, mantra meditation, practice in bhakti, if everything is destined, is it better to tolerate and move on? Ajay Nayyar on Instagram says, do we need to consult astrologers? Janish on Instagram says, is it a good idea to travel to other planets? So, as we have discussed before, the Bhagavad Gita focuses on five topics: Ishvara, the Supreme Controller; Jiva, the soul; Prakriti, material nature; Kala, time factor; Karma, the activities which are performed by the individual soul using his exercising his free will under the influence of his past activities. And therefore, free will and fate exist simultaneously. To give you an example, suppose there is a Mumbai Kolkata flight. I purchased the ticket of the Mumbai Kolkata flight. Yes, I've got the ticket, I got the boarding pass, and then I'm right at the doorstep of the airplane and I have to make a choice. Should I enter or not? I decide I have very important business. I paid for the ticket. I already have the boarding pass. My luggage is checked in. I'm entering inside. I enter inside the flight. They make me sit in my particular, seat. So I take 17C and I'm sitting there, fasten the seat belt, and then the door closes. Now, once the door of the airplane closes, the airplane starts moving on the runway and takes off. The question is, do I still have the free will or not? The answer is yes, I still have the free will. But I have free will for specific choices now. Now, sitting on the airplane, once the flight has reached 10,000 feet in the sky, I can't call the stewardess and say, my mother has made hot aloo paratha in the morning. I forgot to take it. Can you get it for me? So she'll say, Baba, we are 10,000 feet up in the sky. So after you reach back Mumbai, then you can have that, but not here. So you can't say, hey, my free will is not being respected. What is going on? I want hot aloo paratha sitting here. Not possible. Therefore, you can't say now, oh, मेरे नसीब में आलू पराठा है ही नहीं, क्या हो गया ये, बर्बाद हो गया मैं, what is this, what a ill fate, मनहूस है ये flight, मुंबई कलकत्ता flight, मुझे खाने भी नहीं दे रहे हैं, what is going on? There was a specific time where even till you entered into the flight, till that moment you had the choice to turn back and choose that hot aloo paratha over going to Kolkata. If you have made your choice of going to Kolkata as primary, then even though you may choose some of the other choices, it may be too late for it to fructify. So, therefore, now that I am sitting in that flight, the flight has to land in Kolkata. So, in one sense, you can say that my fate has brought me to Kolkata. But that fate of bringing you to Kolkata was defined by your decision to choose going to Kolkata. And then after you land there, and after you come out of the airplane, again you have choice. Hot aloo paratha in Mumbai or complete the business in Kolkata. Suppose suddenly you are overwhelmed by the thought of the hot aloo paratha and you think, I must go back and I must have it. So you have the choice. Go and book the ticket again. Take the next flight back. And you can do that ASAP. You have that choice at that moment. But then the question arises, you check your wallet, check your credit cards, you don't have money. So now you have a choice. You have a desire to go back to Mumbai. You have landed in Kolkata, but you do not have sufficient credit balance in your credit card to be able to book that return flight. So then again you say, Arey, mere naseeb mein kya tha? In my fate, I had to spend a couple of days in Kolkata. So therefore, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami yadyatva mokshashe subhat. There are three elements as far as the law of karma is concerned. First is that the jiva or the soul, he is a doer in making the choice. Second, the Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, he checks every desire and sees whether we have the karmic balance in the credit card, in our karma credit card, to be able to fulfill that desire. At 5:34 p.m., April 27th, I have a desire. I want to lift my right hand. At that moment, Paramatma is checking my karmic balance and seeing that at this moment, can he fulfill his desire? And he looks at his balance and gives the signal to material nature, the third doer, the facilitating agency, Prakriti, and then says, allow this guy to lift his hand, and so I'm able to lift my hand. In future, in situations when we are very sick or get a paralytic attack or any kind of such situations, we find that the desire is there to lift the hand. But at that moment, you can no longer lift your hand because the Lord in the heart has given signal to material energy, Prakriti, based on the past karma. Now this person cannot lift this particular limb anymore. And therefore, always remember the three doers. The Jiva Karta, who desires. The Paramatma Karta, who witnesses and who permits and who directs. And the Prakriti Karta, who facilitates and enables the fulfillment or the non-fulfillment of the desire. And by this, we can understand that yes, choice, free will, and fate all exist simultaneously. And therefore, spirituality empowers us to reclaim our destiny, to do our best, to bring out our best, and to attain the best. And so, birds, they just cannot fly without breaking their shells, and we cannot fulfill our destiny without breaking our conditionings. And therefore, fate is not a matter of faith, but our faith matters in determining our fate. And so, this is extremely important point to consider. Thank you very much for that beautiful question on karma and choices. So, another beautiful question is from Pratha on Instagram. Resilience is an important competency to survive and succeed in today's world full of uncertainties. What other competencies are required to fully equip oneself for today's times? How to obtain them? So, this is a beautiful question. And I take this opportunity to share with all of you another beautiful book which has been written by my friend and colleague Rasik Raman Das, Be the Smarter You. And in this, some very pertinent points has been brought by Rasik Raman Prabhu. Be the Smarter You is your app store for success and happiness. And he basically mentions three primary competencies: dealing with the self, which is part of self excellence, then dealing with people, which is based on interpersonal excellence, and dealing with situations, which is actually situational excellence. So resilience takes care of your response to adverse situations, but we also need skills for self-excellence and interpersonal excellence. So oftentimes we are confronted with a wide gap between what we want to be and who we actually end up being. So our ideal self and your real self may have a dichotomy. So you may wish a more disciplined life, or be more prudent in your decision making, or handle emotions better, or maybe strike more meaningful relationships. Many times we find that, yes, I have that desire, I have that ambition, I see others doing it well, but there is a gap. And therefore, that gap is something which needs to be bridged, which means you need to reboot yourself, become a smarter version of yourself, just like you have your smartphones, and those smartphones are loaded with various smart apps. And so smart people are loaded with smart life apps. And in terms of self excellence, skills like self drive, mind control, discipline, habits, time management are essential. But in terms of interpersonal excellence, skills like emotional intelligence, trust, forgiveness, friendships, etc., are very essential. So, therefore, he has discussed and brought together so many life apps in this book. Be the Smarter You. Like, for example, the Life Compass app, the Self Discovery app, the Self Drive app, the Mind Power app, various kinds of, attitude to altitude apps, the Stress Diffuser app. These are some of the apps which we need in our daily lives for sure. Also, sometimes we have difficulty in forgiving people. This is a very huge phenomena. So the Forgive to Live app, Friendship app, and so many apps. So Rasik Raman Prabhu is an MTech Masters from IIT Mumbai, and he blends these kind of very essential life skills along with a very well done research, and extracted wisdom from Ramayana and Mahabharata, and blended all of it together and presented it in an extremely cogent and attractive manner. So this is very beautiful, and I'm happy to share this with all of you. So next question is from Arulna on Insta. Please explain, whatever we eat, can it cause our anger level to rise? Yes, Arulna, it is said in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada, Ahar Shuddhav Sattva Shuddhav Durvasmati Smriti Lamhe Sarvagranthina Vipramoksha. First, what you eat, Ahar Shuddhav. What you eat makes your Sattva Shuddhi, your existence becomes purified, you come to the mode of goodness. Sattva Shuddhav Durvasmriti. When your existence is purified, Smriti, your memory is invoked. Smriti Lamhe Sarva Grantinam. And as soon as your intelligence is revoked, is invoked, what happens? You are able to reconnect in your relationship with the Supreme One. And therefore, we need to be very careful to make sure that we connect with foods which increase our mode of goodness, and avoid foods which increase our mode of passion and ignorance, if the goal of your life is self elevation and spiritual elevation. Okay, so Krishna ki Muskan on Instagram says, I have this urge to prove myself right. and mostly I'm right, but people don't listen, which makes me angry. Namrata on Insta says, how to know when is the right time to be angry? So, this is again, as in this book which I've written, The Art of Resilience, 40 stories to uplift the mind and transform the heart. In chapter number 31, I have dealt with this topic of provocations and self control and taken on the human quality of self control. And this is something you can refer to. But actually, we all experience this problem which we face. Sometimes we wish to be strong physically, sometimes we want to be strong economically, sometimes we wish to be strong politically. But if we start abusing our strength, then everything goes topsy turvy. Dear friends, Bhagavad Gita is not emphasizing on the action. Bhagavad Gita is emphasizing on the intention behind that action. And so the Mahabharata battle is played out because of the negative, wrong intentions of the king who is blind, Dhrita Rashtra. Rashtra means kingdom, Rashtra means position, Rashtra means influence. When you see some of your colleagues and your friends and others increasing and growing in their influence, and you want to usurp that influence and take that influence away and pull them down, that is known as Dhrita, means to usurp, to capture, to pull down. Rashtra means that influence. So Dhritarashtra literally means that person who was so envious of the Pandavas' growing influence, and their influence was growing through their kingdom. So he wanted to usurp their kingdom. Do not think that there was only one Dhritarashtra and my life is nothing to do with Dhritarashtra. As soon as you see a growing influence somewhere in your career, in your family, in your social circle, and then you start thinking, I must usurp that influence. Please know it is the influence of Dhritarashtra hitting you and biting you from within. And therefore, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna so that he can actually fight the battle of Kurukshetra with the right, powerful intention. Intention which is based on integrity. If we are weak internally, we may cave into evil people. And so we have to become internally strong. We have to become spiritually strong. And we should remember that we are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and we should not allow ourselves to be overwhelmed these kinds of negativity. So, therefore, even weak people can be dangerous because they can become influenced by other negative strong forces. We have to become internally strong by improving our discrimination, by using our intelligence. And how do we motivate ourselves to become strong internally? By tuning ourselves with the message of the Bhagavad Gita. So, right in the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, you can see the growing insecurity of Dhritarashtra. So, Dhritarashtra is insecurity personified. That insecurity which breeds in one's heart and mind by seeing the growing influence of someone. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. Very famous verse, the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when all different personalities on both sides have assembled, Mamakaha, he is making a distinction. My sons, Pandavaha and the Pandavas. What did they do? Such an elderly person, such a senior person, he should have been inclusive in his approach. But Dhritarashtra, his heart was filled with such envy, and therefore he just wanted the Pandavas to be extinguished. And therefore, dear friends, what happened after the Gita was spoken was the actual external battle on Kurukshetra. But what Krishna spoke to Arjuna before the battle of Kurukshetra was the armory, was the weapons Krishna gave in the form of the transcendental knowledge for Arjuna to cope and deal with his internal battle and come out victorious. So, as I quoted the other day, Aristotle said anybody can become angry, that is easy, but how to be angry with the right person at the right time, to the right degree, for the right purpose, in the right way, that requires tons of wisdom. And therefore, anger is like a wind which can blow out the lamp of the mind. And so, we have to be extremely careful how we deal with our internal situation, how we transform ourselves internally and make our life successful. So, this is extremely important. Next question is coming from Ghazal Badalani. One of my friends get panic attack. She gets hopeless in life, no family support. How to take her out of such thoughts? How to avoid negative thoughts of the failure when starts moving towards the dream and starting again from scratch? Ghazal Badlani on Instagram. So there is a beautiful verse which says, Alirbano Jyotishakaha Stabdi Bhuto Kimekakaha Preshita Preshaka Chaiva Shad Ete Sevakadhamaha. We essentially have to develop the positive attitude of being a servant. So, what are the things which create negative thoughts and what are the things which actually create the positive thoughts? So, we are living in an interdependent society. We always need each other's assistance to move forward in life. And this particular verse is something which I have also quoted in my book. Very beautiful verse which I came across. And this enlists 6 types of unsatisfactory service attitudes. First is Ali, B. What is B? Temporary, fickle, restless. If a servant has a bee like mentality, anything is told to him, he'll do it for some time and with a fickle temperament give it away because not interested in serving. Second, Bano. As soon as you tell a person who's like Bano, Bano means arrow. Just like the arrow goes sharp. As soon as you tell this person, can you do this? Immediately the words will come. Why should I do? Why do you want me to do? You don't have anyone else or what? So it's sharply piercing like arrow. Baan ki tarah. And then total negativity. Third, Jyotishaka. Jyotishaka means like astrologer, always looking into future. You tell him, can you do this? हाँ हाँ करेंगे कल परसों करेंगे सोच रहा हूँ अभी आई एम थिंकिंग अबाउट इट so always futuristic but never to be done. And so when you keep procrastinating you can never be filled with positivity, you will always be negative. Fourth, stabdi bhuta. Stabdha, lazy, undependable, like a couch potato, filled with mode of ignorance. And therefore, such a person also can never have positivity. Kim ekaka. Kim ekaka means that one, who always needs constant urging. Did you do this? Did you get it done? That means you always need to keep following up with this person. If you stop the follow up, the work will stop. So if that is the attitude that I will only do when someone tells me to do or asks me, if nobody is going to ask me, forget it. Again, no positivity. So 5 out of this 6 actually do not have the positivity. And then the 6th is totally negative. Preshita, Preshaka means he is simply delegating to others. As soon as he delegates, immediately he tells to somebody else. And he will never take that responsibility. So these 6 types of attitudes while serving will overwhelm us with negativity. How to be serving in the positive attitude? It is known as Ekatma Sevak. Your heart and your thoughts and your mind and your intentions should be one with the intention and the value systems of the person you are serving, of the organization you are serving, of the mission you are serving. If you develop an Ekatma Seva Bhav, then you will always be filled with positivity. So I hope this really helps you. The next question is, how to overcome fears of being judged by people. Bindu on Instagram. Rishikesh Sonamani asks, how to remove fear of anything from the heart and mind, Prabhuji. How to control the mind when the mind is puzzled, Narendra Rathodji asks on Instagram. And, this is very important. And again, in chapter 34, power of obedience and the human quality obedience, I mentioned. And actually, all of us experience the 5 Ds. First D is doubt, doubt in oneself, doubt in the situation, and that doubt shatters us. Based on that doubt, we experience distortion of facts. We don't see the facts properly, and then we don't analyze the situation properly. When you don't analyze things properly because of doubts and distortion, you go through the third D, discouragement. It cannot be done. I can't do it. It's not possible. And when you're discouraged, you have the solution right there with you. Number 4, there is distraction. You are so distracted that you don't see the instrument right there. You simply have to use it. And then, fifth is there is division. Their stress and anxiety takes you away, and that division is from your mission. You are totally divided. You cannot actually focus on the mission. And let me conclude with a few beautiful questions on self development. Shamji on YouTube says, how to increase the duration of gratitude. Ruchika asks on Instagram, how to get association of experts as they are busy, how to get this association for self transformation. Shreyasi Palit asks on YouTube, sir, how to improve willpower. Neha Sable says on Insta, how shall we choose between two things? Arun asks on Instagram, the soul does not know what is right and wrong, how to bring willpower properly, knowingly or powerful. Aru2216 asks on Instagram, I suffered from insomnia, please help. Anshul asks on Instagram, how to get the right instructions when we are confused to take future decision. So, since we are coming to the close on discussion on the art of resilience, and so many of you are very concerned about self development, I will now focus and conclude my session with 12 practices which are very important qualities and characteristics which you need to develop if you want to become influential. And these are the symptoms by which you can distinguish great leaders from ordinary ones. We began today's session by discussing about leadership qualities, but now we will end with 12 qualities which will actually make you great leaders. What are some of those qualities of great leaders? Number 1, great leaders make complex matters seem very simple. Why? Because they have a perfect perspective on things. They're able to clear the fog on the situation, and they can see the way out of any complex situation. Number 2, great leaders, they are actually able to think clearly. They have perfect clarity. They can think through and see through. And clarity happens because of several years of wisdom and implementation. Third characteristic of great leaders never make excuses. They rarely make excuses. They will always find a way out to make the progress. They are focused on progress and not on excuses. So, therefore, the leaders who make the maximum progress are those who make the fewest excuses. Fourth, great leaders think abundance. They never think in terms of scarcity mindset that, oh, we cannot do this, we should not do this. If they do this, then we will be affected. No, think abundance. Fifth characteristic, great leaders regularly go through their priorities and they reprioritize because what works today may not work tomorrow. So, regular reprioritization is a very important characteristic of great leaders. Great leaders, number six, think, won't, not can't. That means when internally they may be thinking, can I do this? Maybe I cannot. But instead, they say, I will not do this. What's the difference? They are making a choice rather than feeling totally succumbed to a circumstance and situation and feeling helpless in that situation. They retain that choice. Seventh, great leaders, they master self discipline. And dear friends, in the course of our discussions over the last 6 days, we have focused so much on self discipline. And I'm sure you will implement some of those in your own life and create the rungs for your leadership climb. Eighth, they always think we. Great leaders never think me. Ninth, great leaders decide that I will serve and work for those whom I am serving. They are serving for others, never serving for themselves. And the others can see it. They are always in the mood of service attitude. Tenth, the great leaders never procrastinate, they start instantly. They have the least delay in beginning an activity because they know it needs to be done. 11th, great leaders are always very conscious of time, are punctual. And 12th, great leaders know that I can only care for others if I care for myself. Therefore, they never work 24 by 7. They take quality time off. And they remember that before the 18 days of battle began, Arjuna took out 1 hour and heard the Bhagavad Gita. That 1 hour of hearing Krishna's Bhagavad Gita helped Arjuna execute his karma, his duty in the mood of yoga. And then he could transform that into bhakti yoga. So, as we come to the close of our 6 days of wonderful interaction, beautiful transformational questions being brought forward by all of you, I wish to heartily thank each and every one of you for being there for any moment of time, for any amount of time in the course of these discussions. I was so impressed and thrilled to receive such amazing, genuine, sincere queries. And I want to express my heartfelt gratitude from the core of my heart to each one of you for being part of this wonderful, amazing journey. Once again, dear friends, in some cities, maybe Amazon.com is not active because of the COVID. So, for those, you could always go on www.tulsibooks.com and place your order there. They have tried to make some arrangements. Otherwise, this is available on Amazon.in. The Art of Resilience, and my gratitude to Penguin Publishing House for being part of this journey. And I hope and pray that you find something of value to take from this book based on the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the ancient Vedic wisdom. Transform your lives, create an impact in your own personal lives, and create an impact in others' lives. Best wishes on your life's journey. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
वृन्दावनरम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां रतनमन्दिर मनोहार वृन्दावनरम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां आवृतकालिन्दिनी रे राजहंस केलिकोरे ताहे शोभे कनक कमला आवृतकालिन्दिनी रे राजहंस केलिकोरे ताहे शोभे कनक वृन्दावन रम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां रत्नमन्दिरमनोहारा वृन्दावन रम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां रत्नमन्दिरमनोहारा तारमध्ये हेमापीठ अष्टदले वेष्टित अष्टदले प्रधान नायिका तारमध्ये हेमापीठ अष्टदले वेष्टित अष्टदले प्रधान नायिका तारमध्ये रत्नसने बोसिया छे दुई जने श्याम संगे सुंदरी राधिका तारमध्ये रत्नसने बोसिया छे दुई जने श्याम संगे सुंदरी राधिका वृंदावन रम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां रत्नमन्दिर मनोहारा वृन्दावन रम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां रत्नमन्दिर मनोहारा ओ रूपलावण्य राशि आमिया पोड़ी छे खासी हास्य परिहास संभाषणे ओ रूपलावण्य राशि आमिया पोड़ी छे खासी हास्य परिहास संभाषणे नरोत्तम दास कहे नित्य लीला सुखमय सदाई स्फुरुक मोरा माने नरोत्तम दास कहे नित्य लीला सुखमय सदाई स्फुरुक मोरा माने वृन्दावन रम्यस्तां दिव्यचिन्तामणिदां रत्नमन्दिर मनोहारा 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 रत्नमन्दिर मनोहारा रत्नमन्दिर परं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले ब्राजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं यशोदाभियोलुखलाधावमानं यशोदाभियोलुखलाधावमानं परामृष्टमात्यन्ततो धृत्य परामृष्टमात्यन्ततो धृत्य नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्र युग्मामृजन्तं करम्बोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रं रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्र युग्मामृजन्तं करम्बोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रं मोहश्वासकं पात्रे रेखाङ्ककण्ठा मोहश्वासकं पात्रे रेखाङ्ककण्ठा स्थितग्रैवं दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धं स्थितग्रैवं दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं इति दृक्स्वलीलाभि आनन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम् इति दृक्स्वलीलाभि आनन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् तदीयेषिताग्नेषु भक्तैर्जितत्वं तदीयेषिताग्नेषु भक्तैर्जितत्वं पुनः प्रेमतस्तं शता वृत्तिवन्दे पुनः प्रेमतस्तं शता वृत्तिवन्दे नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षां वदें वा न चान्यं ऋणेऽहं वरेशादपीह वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षां वदें वा न चान्यं ऋणेऽहं वरेशादपीह इदं ते वपुर्नाथ गोपालबालम् इदं ते वपुर्नाथ गोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्याविरास्तं किं मन्ये सदा मे मनस्याविरास्तं किं नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् इदं ते मुखाम्बोजम् अत्यन्तनीले वृतं कुन्तले स्निग्ध रक्तैश्च गोप्या इदं ते मुखाम्बोजम् अत्यन्तनीले वृतं कुन्तले स्निग्ध मुहुश्चुम्बितां बिम्ब रक्तादरं मे मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्ब रक्तादरं मे मनस्याविरास्तामालं लक्षलाभै मनस्याविरास्तामालं लक्षलाभै नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमो देवदामोदरानन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःख जालाब्धिमग्नम् नमो देवदामोदरानन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःख जालाब्धिमग्नम् कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दीनं बतानो कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दीनं बतानो गृहाणेश मामाज्ञं हे दक्षिदृश्य गृहाणेश मामाज्ञं हे दक्षिदृश्य नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धं मूर्त्यैव यद्वा त्वया मोचितो भक्ति बाजौ कृतौ च कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धं मूर्त्यैव यद्वा त्वया मोचितो भक्ति बाजौ कृतौ तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेस्ति दामोदरे न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेस्ति दामोदरे नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चित् आनन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले नमस्तेऽस्तु धाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोधराय विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकाय त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो राधिकाय त्वदीयप्रियाय ओ नमो राधिकाय त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो राधिकाय त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो नन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो नन्दलीलाय देवाय नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले विराजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले यशोदाभियो लोकालादवमानं यशोदाभियो लोकालादवमानं परं भ्रष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्य परं भ्रष्टमत्यन्ततो नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले विराजमानं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले विराजमानं जय